Hello and welcome to another Tunisian crochet tutorial. Today we will be looking at how to make the Modwen Baby Blanket. So I know many of you were waiting for this tutorial, so here it is finally. To make the blanket you will need chunky or bulky weight yarn. I used these three colors, so I used cream, pale rose and denim, and this is by Starcraft Special Chunky. And I paired it with 9mm Tunisian crochet hook with very short extension. So the blanket is worked in panels from bottom to top. So we will start on the left hand side, and it's worked in squares, and then you work from bottom to top, and then you join along the right edge to create the next panel, and you move to the right. So my blanket is about 37 by 37 inches, which is about around about 100 by 100 centimeters, just a little under that. And I've got 5 panels. So I started with cream, then I've got the pink with the cream again, cream with blue and cream, and I've done 5 squares vertically for the blanket, but it's fairly easy to adjust the size if you would like to make your blanket a bit bigger. Stitches that we will be using today are the combination of Tunisian simple stitch and Tunisian slip stitch, and if we combine these two stitches within a row and between rows, and we throw in a color change into the mix, it will create this beautiful color pattern. So without further ado, let's dive in. I'm going to be making a mini version just to demonstrate the basic techniques and stitches, and once you master this, you'll be able to go on to make your very own blanket in full size. So we first start with a slip knot. You insert the hook through the loop, and then you make a chain. This is how we started the project. If you follow the pattern, you will need to chain 22. So I'm going to chain slightly less, or much less. So to chain, we yarn over the hook and pull through the loop on the hook. So that's chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, so this is as far as I'm going to go today. Only going to have 6 chains, but if you follow the pattern you will chain 22. Then we turn the chains around, and you will see these back bumps, and we are going to be inserting the hook through the back bumps. So we are going to go from front to back, yarn over and pull up a loop, and we will follow along, inserting the hook into each chain all the way to the end. So I started with 6 chains, and then I've got 6 loops on the hook. So this is for the forward pass of the project. Now we're going to go on to work the return pass. So we'll yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to the end until you have 1 loop left on the hook. So this is also known as the standard return pass. And you will work the standard return pass for the first panel. From the second panel onwards, you will always be doing standard return pass with a decrease. So this was the first row of Tunisian crochet, also known as the foundation row. From the second row onwards, we will start alternating the stitches between and within rows. So we will start with Tunisian simple stitch by inserting the hook from right to left under the front vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. The next one is slip stitch, so we just literally insert the hook under the stitch, but we will not yarn over. The next one is Tunisian simple stitch, slip stitch, and then we get to the very last stitch, which is the end stitch, and that is worked by inserting the hook under both strands of the edge, yarn over and pull up a loop. and then we will continue with standard return pass, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, like so. And this is the second row of the first panel. For the third row, we will start alternating the stitches between the rows. So while in the first row we first worked Tunisian simple stitch, now it will be Tunisian slip stitch, then Tunisian simple, slip stitch, Tunisian simple, and an end stitch, and standard return pass. Okay, so from now on we will start repeating the rows 2 and 3. If you follow the pattern, you will then go on to work rows 4 to 21 by repeating rows 2 and 3. So I'm going to do a few more rows and meet you back what would be row number 23. So now I've worked a few more rows, and now what would be equivalent to the end of the return pass of row number 23. So this is where we're going to be adding the color. So for this mini swatch, I'm going to be adding the blue, because this is the yarn ball that I've already started working with. But if you follow the pattern, this would be the pink. But it doesn't matter, because if you choose to work with different colors, this would just be your color B. So we are adding the color B. Or when we have the last 2 loops of the return pass on our hook, we'll then place the loop with the color B on the hook and pull through. And essentially we are going to be continuing with the pattern that we've already established. So the row 23 started with Tunisian slip stitch. So now the next row we'll need to start with Tunisian simple stitch. So we work Tunisian simple, slip, Tunisian simple, slip, and an end stitch. So you will always, for the first panel, you will have an even number of stitches between the first and the end stitch, between the first stitch and the end stitch. So you will always complete the full repeat of Tunisian simple and slip stitch, or for the alternating row, Tunisian slip stitch and Tunisian simple stitch. So now after this we will be alternating, so this would be equivalent to row number 24. So now we will be alternating the colors between the row. So at the end of return pass, where you've got the last 2 loops on the hook, you will then pick up color A again, pull through the last 2 loops, and then you will go on to work the next row. So this will be Tunisian slip, simple, Tunisian slip, and simple. So the whole project is essentially a 2-row repeat, where you've got a row, the first row you have alternating Tunisian simple and slip all the way to the end. On the second row you have Tunisian slip stitch and simple, and this is what you will be repeating for the whole of your project. So we've got, I'm coming now back on return pass, and I'm going to change to color B, and this is it. So essentially the project is alternation of squares which are worked in a cream, or then cream in combination with another color. And if you follow the pattern on my blog, you will see the sequence of the alternations, but of course you can change it up in whichever way you like. So I'm going to go on and continue working in the established stitch pattern, and I will meet you at the end of this square, where I will be going back to working in cream only. So now I'm at the end of the square where we alternated the colors. So the way I designed the pattern is that this would have the squares would have an odd number of rows. That means that when you are coming back from the color, to the cream would be the following square, so that you don't have to have too many ends to weave in, because you are just carrying the cream through the project from the bottom to top. So now at the end, I'm going to go back to cream and then continue working in the established pattern. So here for the third square, you would start with a Tunisian slip stitch and then Tunisian simple stitch, and so on. You will alternating the stitches along the row. So I'm going to go ahead, complete this little square as well. Again, this would be an odd number of rows. So per the pattern, each square has got 23 rows. For my mini swatch, I only have 5 rows per square, and I'll meet you at the top of the first panel to show you how to bind off. So now at the top of the first panel, I only have 3 squares, but if you follow the pattern, you will have 2 more squares. So you would have the first in cream. The second square of the first panel is combination of cream and pink, cream, then cream and blue, and back to cream again. And for the bind off, I selected simple Tunisian simple stitch bind off. So we are going to go into the next stitch, as if for Tunisian simple stitch. We work Tunisian simple stitch, but then we go on and pull through the loop that is already on the hook, and we're going to go into the next stitch and repeat the same. And what it does, it creates a chain like stitch on the top, which matches the bottom of your project. And then we will work the same through the end stitch as well. At this point, you would cut your yarn, and if you are really good, you would weave in your ends right away or at the end of your project. For the second panel, we will join the yarn at the very bottom of the chain on the right hand side. So this would be this loop, the turning loop, not the first stitch of the row 1, but this would be here in the corner. You will have the last chain, and we will work through 2 loops of the last chain. So it might not be as visible in this screen, but I'll try to demonstrate it as clearly as I can. So you will go through 2 loops just to make it secure for the panels to be attached to each other and to kind of maintain the continuity of the fabric. So you, for each of the edge stitches, you have the front loop, the back loop, and then there is a 1 more loop here. So you will want to go through the 2 of the back loops, basically, to go through 1 and the second, like so. Yes, so we will basically work through 2 loops. I will now get the yarn. So this in your case, it will be color B or yarn B. I'm using blue, but according to pattern, it would be the pink. We place the loop on the hook and pull it through. And now even though we started the first square with chain 22, we will now need to chain 23. The reason why is because on the first panel, you create edges on both sides. So you've got the right hand edge and the left hand edge. However, on the consecutive panels, you will lose the left edge because you will just join the row onto the existing panel. So what we need to do is we need to increase the number by 1, and that's why for the second panel and all the other panels, I'll have you chain 23. So this is the reason why there is the difference between the number of stitches. Because we need even number of stitches to do the stitch pattern repeat, we will need even +1 for the edge stitch. I'm going to go ahead and chain 7. So we start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We will then turn the chains around and again work through the back bumps of these chain stitches. So we'll go into each chain 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. And now we're going to attach this to the row that is corresponding row on the first panel, and we're again going to go through the back loop and the second one at the back of your work, yarn over and pull up a loop. However, now we have 8 loops because we added 1 loop by attaching it to the side of the first panel. So what we need to do, we need to reduce the number of loops, and this is going to be done by working yarn over and pull through 2 from the beginning. So this is the standard return pass with a decrease, and then we are going to go ahead and continue working yarn over pull through 2 as for the standard return pass. Now up to the last 2 loops, and this is where we need to attach the yarn, because this is the square with the color, so we will be alternating the cream and the color. So we're going to go ahead and pull through the last 2 loops with our cream. And now again we are going to be working the stitch pattern by alternating Tunisian simple stitch and Tunisian slip stitch, Tunisian simple, slip, and so on until the last stitch, and then we will work through the 2 loops of the next row on the panel 1, and again working standard return pass with the decrease. So from the panel 2 onwards, you will always work the standard return pass with a decrease until you have last 2 loops on the hook, and then you swap the colors again like so. And then the 3rd row for the second panel, again we are starting with Tunisian slip, and then simple, slip, and simple, slip, and simple, and attaching to the panel 1 like so. Okay, so what you will do now for the second panel, you will continue working the alternating the colors for the first square, and then you will just continue working with the cream for the second square. The 3rd square is again with the color, with a different color. If you choose to work 3 colors, if you only choose to work with 2 colors, it would be the color that you were using for the first, and so on to the top of the panel. And I'm going to meet you back there to show you how to complete the bind off, attaching it to the first panel. I'm now back. I'm at the last row of the panel 2, so I'm going to go ahead and attach the panel to the first panel. So I'm not going to attach it on the top because this is the actual bind off row. I still have 1 more row here, so just to make sure that you won't skip this last row, you attach it there, work your standard return pass with a decrease, and if your last square on the top is in color like here, you would not change at the end. You will keep the color B or color C on your hook, and you will bind off with that color so that it matches the bottom of your work, because this is how we started this panel. We started with the chains in the color, so we want to end up the bind off row on the top with this in the same color as well. And again we are just going to work Tunisian simple stitch, bind off up to the last stitch, and then where you have the first band of stitch in the previous panel, you will go under 2 loops of the first stitch, like so, from front to back, yarn over, pull up loop, pull through the loop on the hook, then you cut the yarn and pull it through. So what you would do for 4 consecutive panels, you will repeat the same process as we've done for the panel 2. You will attach it to the bottom of your panel into the very first chain here. Then, so this was panel 2. If I was going to do then panel 3, I would go back to cream, do cream, and then start alternating the colors as per the pattern. So this is it. Once you have as many squares, as many panels as you would need for your final measurements, you will then weave in all your ends. As you can see, there are not that many at the end because we are carrying the cream from bottom to top all the way through, and we are only attaching the color, so you will only have ends to weave in from the color at the back. And then you will block the project. As you can see, because we worked the Tunisian simple and Tunisian slip stitches, this curl quite a bit, so this blanket or this project would definitely need some good blocking. I blocked mine with a steam, and that sorted it out. If you block with steam, that makes your fabric have more drape as well, so that's a win-win situation. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments below what colors would you use for your blanket, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.